Here we go. You're live.
Oh.
That was so difficult to do.
My gosh. Pressing.
Sarah, fix it.
Yeah, Sarah, come on now. You don't understand how truly how difficult things are, okay? Maybe if you ran a podcast, you would know the struggles.
That's where I take the podcast back away from you.
She's gone.
I think she's dying.
All right. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to what should be an interesting discussion. We are live here on my channel, and
This is quite different, though, right?
yeah, this will be fun. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something that we kind of do a little more often. Who knows? Hopefully not because of the circumstances, given why we're here. But yeah, I'm ACRacebest, and joining me here tonight is Saberspark.
Hello, I am Saberspark, and I had the unfortunate luck of watching Arctic Dogs, and so did you.
I did, and to give us a an extra perspective, we brought in someone who hasn't seen Arctic Dogs. Welcome, Paleo Steno.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I was going to go try to see it today, but I was like, I don't really want to go.
Just at that, you just didn't want to go.
Yeah.
You're like,
I just don't want to go.
I just don't want to go. So yeah. We're going to be kind of, honestly, I think this is just going to be about an hour of us ripping this movie apart
Let's
because
do it.
it's probably amongst one of the most frustrating movies, just on a level. And I blame myself. This movie didn't force me to go see it. But
I was
gosh.
surprised that you saw it, but I'm gonna move my microphone for 1 second, so forgive the sound. Okay, there we go.
Hot.
I was surprised that you and Sarah went to go see it, because like yesterday I went to go see it because I wanted. It just makes sense. It's a shitty animated furry film. Of course I'm going to go see it. And how often does it happen? Does it happen in the movie theaters on a theatrical level?
Right.
And seeing the posts where folks are like, this is one of the worst performing movies of all time. It was released in 2,800 theaters, and it only made, I think, $3.1 million back its opening weekend out of the $50 million budget it had. Ridiculous.
Oops.
That's $20 million more than Norm of the North. I believe somebody posted on Twitter that, what was it? Captain Underpants cost $38 million to make. So I'll have to double check that source. But basically, the amount of money spent on this movie does not correlate or represent like the quality of the final product, where it's like, I'm sorry, this looks like you spent $5 million maybe on it.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, you released a review for it. Like you said, this is kind of a thing for anyone that is less familiar with your channel. Saberspark does a bunch of these cartoon reviews of typically trash content.
Yep,
and
I
so
do.
this was kind of a no-brainer, and like you said, you had the opportunity to actually see it as it came out. And this was also kind of, I mean, it set a record as the worst opening weekend for a theater release of its size. So it's not like it was like small, not a lot of people knew about it movie. It was
not a
promoted.
limited release.
No, and it also
It was a wide release.
had. I mean, I saw quite a few trailers for this in the last couple of months, so it's not like it quietly
Same.
showed up.
People were saying on YouTube and Twitter, like, I had no idea this movie was even being released. I never saw any advertising for it. Now, I did. And to be fair, maybe the algorithm catered to my very specific, lifestyle with what I watch. So maybe that's why. But we were laughing about how one of the big memes that come out of this movie is that when the cold brew hits,
When
shit
that cold
post.
brew hits.
Which is like, it's obvious they hired some advertising firm to get the word out, and one intern's like, oh, what can we do when the cold brew hits? Have the polar bear fly across the sky. I don't know. Post it. and that's the best. And I love it because it's like the level of not giving a fuck is so off the charts that's hilarious to a lot of people. Like when the cold burr hits, you hear the polar bear across the sky. And here's the best part: that wasn't even the sound effect from the movie. That was something they added in post for this ad. So it just adds an extra layer of how shitty this entire experience is.
Man, so I'm gonna go on record here and just for the pre-warning for anyone that isn't clued in on it, this is going to involve a ton of spoilers. We're just gonna be straight up talking about Arctic Dogs. For anyone that cares, maybe you shouldn't, because
No, you should. This movie does not have an intricate plot where it's like, oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. No. If anything, it's confusing and it borrows a lot. And which is one of the main points of this video is how it stole from Zootopia. I'm going to just throw that out. That is our thesis for tonight's episode of whatever we're doing.
Yeah,
is how Arctic Dogs stole from Zootopia. Like a few minutes into the movie, I'm like, hold on, I've seen this before, and I've seen it much better. Like I've seen a better version of it. So. Yeah. All right, I'll pass the ball back to you, Race. What do you think? What was your initial reaction to Arctic Dogs when you all saw it?
Yeah, well, so heading into this movie, a little bit of backstory here. We spoke with you, actually, on our way to the theater, and you did mention, like, hey, so you didn't say what movie, but you said this movie reminded me of a movie. And so I kind of went in also paying attention to that, going like, okay, let's see what it was. Where when things first kicked off, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be a Balto movie. Not really. But so...
Everybody was thinking that. I watched Rebel Taxi's review, Pan's review for Arctic Dogs. And he said that. I believe Jim also said that, where both believed that it was going to be a ripoff of Balto, which makes sense considering it's a sleigh dog thing, and the entire thing of like, oh, we need sleigh dogs because time is of the essence to get this precious cargo to children or whatever.
Right. Well, I'll get into that as far as like where things kind of go with the movie, but the reason I feel like I need to give backdrop is it also gives an idea of the kind of emotion I had going into this movie. All right, so. When Sarah and I typically go to the movies, we try to see more than one movie. That way I feel like my popcorn budget is being stretched a little bit. And I'm like, okay. It's
my friend, you walk into the theater with a big, large popcorn with extra butter. They roll the red carpet out for you. You paid for someone's salary for that week.
I sure did. So going into this movie, Sarah and I were already kind of discussing because it was a rare following day where she had work that morning. So I had to do a little bit of convincing. Like, hey, Sarah, come on. I think it would be a good idea for us to see 2 movies tonight. And we went through our options, and Arctic Dogs ended up being our second movie, which means that was the movie where Sarah felt like she was actually losing sleep for. And boy, did I feel good about talking her into that. That's all I gotta say is I felt like a real winner. So yeah, we had already.
Well, tell us what was the other movie you saw that night?
We saw Terminator, the new Terminator movie that just came out. So
what was worse, Arctic Dogs or Terminator?
Oh, not even close. Actually, I'll be honest with you, Terminator I found enjoyable. I really liked it. I enjoyed the throwbacks. I enjoyed the humor. It's not like a movie where I'm like, wow, amazing. But compared to Arctic Dogs, man, amazing.
Mozart.
Yeah. So so that was kind of our build up going into this movie, was that Sarah already knew, like, all right, I'm losing sleep for this movie. I'm going to have a long day tomorrow because of this movie. Let's see how this movie goes. And yeah, I think she regrets her decision.
Why? This was a good experience for her to understand the depth of animation in the industry and how it's so well represented in today's cinematic experience.
Well, I made a note, or I had some notes that I, of course, left away from my apartment, so I don't have them with me. But what did I call this? I think I called this like like just on the outskirts of this film, when you kind of just look at a quick, like, skim through it, this is essentially, it looks to be like a Balto reskin where he also has to deal with reskinned minions.
Yes. So this studio, I thought it was Assemblage. That's the name of the studio. I thought that made this.
There were four studios that had touch with this, and they all started with A, I think. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes, it's confusing. I mean, I understand why companies do this, where they're like, let's get multiple studios to work on this and collab, whatever. But it makes it confusing, where it's like, wait, who did the heavy lifting? Who were the people who pushed this in a certain direction with the visuals and story and whatnot? I don't know. That being said, the people who've worked on this are the same ones, as I've been told by Ryan Walterson, that Spark: A Space Tale, this movie was directed by the same person who directed Spark: A Space Tale, and that it was written by the same person, I believe, who did Son of Bigfoot. So it's like all over the place. We have a bunch of sub-average movies, and that's what, like, Arctic Dogs to me is not like, oh my god, it's the worst movie of all time, burn at the stake. It's not like that. It's not good. I would definitely not watch it ever again because I don't care about it. But it's because in Jim's review he said it's not good, but it's not bad enough, and I agree with him 100%.
It gets to like a boring level almost.
Yes, which is the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah, no, I agree with
good,
that.
Be bad.
Yeah. So Paleo, what did you think of this movie that you haven't watched?
Yeah, Paleo.
Well
said, dude.
Yeah, good. That was great. So,
I was actually just looking up the distribution company. Entertainment Studios is the name of the distribution company. That, like,
liars.
What a name! What a name!
You liar!
But I found out that they also distributed 47 Meters Down and also its sequel.
Yeah,
like,
which
what the hell?
Laura saw, my girlfriend saw the sequel to 47 Meters Down. She's like, it's stupid. It's stupid as hell.
They also did Friend Request, that other horror movie.
Oh god, I remember the advertising for Friend Request where it's got like these kids in Skype who are like, Johnny, what's that person behind you? Oh, like no, there wasn't. Was it Friend Request? The movie where
no, that was like Unfriended.
That's right. He's the one with the kid who's like, oh no, I can't help it, and he puts his hand in a blender.
Yeah, the Skype one. Yeah, where it plays off of like bad internet connections as a horror tactic.
Yeah.
Everybody's like running on their laptop with a webcam. Like, what do we do? God, it was so dumb.
But see, that's a good example of a movie that was so dumb that it actually gained entertainment value from it.
Yeah, it's so hard to find what makes a bad movie good in an ironic way, and I think for that it's when you've got folks who have genuine passion and think they know what they're doing. Or they have or they take leaps of faith with like techniques of animation or filming or shots or whatever, or editing, that like it's like, what were you thinking? This doesn't work. It looks awful.
Yeah.
And that to me, like, it's not like, haha, fuck you, this sucked, but more of a, haha, what the hell were you all thinking? I think it's hilarious. Like, because like the Cool Cat guy, David Savage, I forget his name. Derek Savage. He did that Cool Cats like line of movies, and originally like he had one where it's like Cool Cat Stops Bullying or something like that. And there was a scene where the cat. Do you know what I'm talking about, Race?
It's the one where like in the background you see like this furry walking around, right?
Yeah, you get like this fursuit looking like orange cat with a blue shirt. Yeah. It's called Cool Cat. It's the funniest shit ever. My girlfriend told me about this. I still need to watch the movie. I've seen the scene though, where the cat's like, don't cross the road unless you look both ways. And as soon as the song's over, the cat just runs across the road without looking either directions. Dude.
There's also a scene where you see in the background, a house in the background where somebody's going outside, and then they like stop, and then like they go backwards back into their house.
Yeah, it's like a raptor jumped out, and then like, whoa, easy.
Yeah.
So that to me is hilarious. Where it's campy, it's silly, and it's almost cute. Mm-hmm. Versus Sharknado 7, where it's like, no, you're deliberately making shit. it's not cute anymore because you know what you're doing. There has to be an unknown factor to it where they think they know they got a handle on it, and then they fail tremendously. Food fights hilariously bad. I'm trying to think of some other examples.
The
on my
Room.
channel. The Room. That's a perfect example. That again, like what was Tommy Wiseau thinking, but like in a way, it's worked out for him. There are films like that. Now, Arctic Dogs isn't one of those kinds of films because they're just competent enough.
Yeah. Yep. And so looking at this movie as far from like a budget standpoint, and I think you mentioned this in your review where like the animation itself, it's not bad. And it's fine, and it feels like they had enough heart into the animation, but by far I believe the entire budget had to have actually gone to the voice acting.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they're all big actors, or at least fairly big actors that they got to voice these characters.
Heidi Klum, Jeremy Rayner, John Cleese. I mean, like I said in my review, John Cleese, I thought he was fine. But John Cleese is like a professional enough voice actor, actor general, where he's like, just give me the script. I can do this. Whether it's, I'm good enough to where I can make something bad sound good. Versus Heidi. Oh my God, she sounded so lethargic. Alec Baldwin, get the fuck out of here. He didn't care. Like there's certain VAs. I thought Jeremy at least put a little bit of effort, but like not enough to save the film. The voice acting wasn't going to save this film, so I don't know why they spent so much money on the voice actors. Because there's a behind-the-scene thing where they said every voice actor was at least nominated for an Academy Award, except for one person,
Heidi Klum.
So why do you need that like stacked of a voice actor staff? Like
they're getting Heidi her Academy Award with this one.
Yeah. Right. They're gonna get her a Razzie now. Let's talk about the Zootopia stuff. That's the entire point of the video.
Yeah. So going into this movie, to state the elephant in the room, Francine, this is going to have parallels that almost don't count because, it's an animal movie, talking animals, wearing clothes, that kind of society. Zootopia didn't create that. That's not something that it was like, oh my gosh, how could they copy that? Same with, because I talked with Sarah about this. I asked her, I'm like, do you feel in any way like I'm trying to remember not much of this movie stuck with me, so I'm gonna forget names. But the red fox girl, I was like, yeah, Sarah, look, she has green eyes like Nick, and she's like, it's very common design. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
True.
So there
are certain. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what you were gonna say is there are certain things that just like it's not so much like a copy or it's more of just general either design or this is the setting that this movie was in, so of course there's gonna be certain parallels, but my God, did others just go like just over the top as far as between this and Zootopia, and I mean you saw it.
I feel like the writers, I realize that there are certain stories that it's not like Zootopia came up with this plot.
Baltar.
It's not. Well, I'm just saying that, a buddy cop movie. Okay, that was established back in the day. Same thing with talking animals, anthropomorphic animals, and them being like different species and how they have to interact. That's been established.
Right.
But Zootopia, I think, added a brand new coat of paint to that realm of okay, we can talk about the social commentary of a society that has fundamental differences and how it can coexist, maybe.
Yep.
And Judy is so optimistic about that because she was not really in that world. She grew outside of it and grew up thinking that she can one day enter it and be a pillar of supporting it by being an officer, the first bunny officer. Something that people thought, no, there's no way it can be done. She's unqualified. She can't do it. So that all being said, for Arctic Dogs, you got Swifty, our main character, an Arctic fox, who wants to be a sleigh dog.
Yeah.
But the movie does something really silly at the start because they introduce an aspect to the film about our character that they don't even bring up until the very end, which made it kind of useless. Because even what they try to utilize at the end, it wasn't really utilized that much.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of him being invisible. He's like, oh, people don't really notice me. I'm and foxes say blend in. You kind of just keep your head down. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid. You're wearing a jacket. Why'd you buy a white jacket? Like, wear a yellow jacket. Wear a orange jacket. A construction worker. This is a very easy thing to solve. Like, if you wear an animal with no technology, I can see that. But you have a fucking airplane in your movie. So you're obviously capable of making clothes. And then you've got him like, I want to grow up and work really hard and be a sleigh dog someday, just like Judy wants to be a cop. And that was the first thing that hit me, where I'm like, uh-oh, this seems familiar.
And yeah, like hitting on that, this Swifty character, you know, again, and it comes up in more ways than one, but essentially we get this continuous, and the thing is, it's not even like clever how they get to it. It's very on the nose, where they're like, no, you're an Arctic fox, therefore you can't be, you know, one of these top dogs. You know, you can't do it because of this. Oh, well, I'm gonna do it. I don't know. It just didn't feel clever at all. It just felt like they're like, hey, we need to make this point and really spell it out for the audience. Like so we don't leave anyone behind. So yeah, I mean that was kind of the first or one of the parallels there, because, you know, as you mentioned, Judy Hopps with wanting to be a cop, being put down because she's a bunny, actually having people close to her turn her down, essentially trying to say like, hey, you know, let's be realistic here, where for her it was her parents. I honestly, here's one thing I gotta admit, throughout watching this trailer who knows how many times for this movie, for some reason I was always convinced that the Alec Baldwin character, who's a polar bear, was gonna end up being this Arctic fox's dad, and I never once thought of why that wouldn't work out. Oops. Probably not.
Well, this movie wasn't well thought out because you have two different stories going on and being pushed together. One about a fox who wants to be a delivery guy and pull the sleigh around, which he's not strong enough to do, pull. Which, again, it's like, I see how this works with Zootopia, because Judy went through the training. She succeeded. Where she wasn't big enough to take on a rhino head on, she outsmarted it. And according to Zootopia training, they're like, this is good enough. She's not only good enough, it's the best in the class. So she overcame it by being smarter, versus something that comes down to pure physics. Can you pull this sleigh? No, you can't. You're not cut out for it. It's just the truth.
Right.
It's like me saying, I want to be a bodybuilder, but I don't want to put on muscle, or I can't put on muscle. That's a problem. So instead of having the fox outsmart it, which would have made it more of a, oh, the fox is smart, he uses his other strengths or whatever. No, they brute force it. It's just stupid. Yeah. It feels like it's like you're not working smarter, you're working harder.
And there's actually
he seems pretty dumb from what I've seen.
What's that?
I said he seems pretty dumb from what I've seen.
He's not a likable main character either. Like
no.
But going off of what you were just talking about, there's actually two things that I have jotted down that kind of have this Zootopia parallel. You talk about how Swifty wants, you know, he's like, oh, well, this is what I'm gonna do. So the movie has this half-assed montage that they show of him training, which some of the scenes, if you when you watch, or hopefully you don't, but if you watch this movie, you'll see like some of these, I'm like, my God, like this almost looks like it's out of Zootopia, the way that he's training. Yep. So that was something that I think that was the moment where I actually said, oh shit, I think I know what Movie Saber was gonna say, because that happens early on.
Anime Freak X4, you said, were there any likable characters even in Arctic Dogs? Because I was about to say, no, there's not. The Caribou boss is as close as I get to actually like, okay, I can put up with you. But everybody else is either boring or just an asshole.
Mhm.
And
Even
and
the John Cleese character?
he was a villain, but he wasn't a fun villain. He's just more of a it felt generic. Like, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
He had robotic legs like that stupid hamster, that hamster from Overwatch.
He looked like the guy out of Monsters Inc. I was like,
yes, Water Noose.
Oh yeah, Water Noose.
He's Water Noose meets the hamster from Overwatch. That's what it was.
I was like,
I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I see this movie fail.
oh god. I will say this.
Man, we got a viewer in our chat who's quite like on the fence. I'm sorry, I'm like seeing their comments and I'm like, good lord, every turn we throw something where it's like I think we found one of the many fans of Arctic Dogs. I'm sorry.
Well, good. You know what? Hey, there's got to be
Good
at
for
least
you.
one. Yeah.
Good for you.
No,
I know that Star Wars didn't steal fantasy.
but going off of this, talking about, like you talked about how there are physical limitations when you have a world like this of what certain characters, what certain animals can do, and that is something that Zootopia lays out at the end of the movie, talking about, you know, it's all about focusing on your strengths and what you can do with those. Talking about lazy, the way that this movie tried to say the exact same message at the end of the movie, talking about like, oh yeah, no, I mean, we all have, I don't even remember the exact dialogue, but basically saying like, we each have our individual strengths. And the point they were making was like, hey, look, now we have little mice delivering little packages. So the big animals don't squish the packages when they sneeze. I don't know. Like, I was like, you're trying, but
yeah,
what?
and it's and I like Zootopia did a good job of showing how, despite having a world of massive elephants and little mice, they can still make it work. It can make it practical. This village, it felt like, I'm like, this doesn't really make as much sense. And I don't know. Oh wow.
Hi, Missy. Missy,
Missy.
coming in with a super chat.
Honest to God, I wasn't expecting that, Missy. Lots of love. Thank you so much for watching.
Same.
All right, for the
love
record,
sabers.
I need to make something clear. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was taking a shot at someone in the chat for defending Arctic Dogs. I think it's, again, like, what we're saying is that, because Zootopia, like we said, isn't something that is like the first to, like, you can say Judy's training montage. Well, look at Rocky's montage. It's one of the de facto montages.
Right.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just certain moments in Arctic Dogs where I'm like, nah, this feels, it's not like you said, let's take the like waking up morning cliche in movies, or not cliche, trope, or training trope, or being shot down by your boss trope. That was a scene that got me. The way
I have that
they
one
angled
listed.
the camera for Swifty to look at his boss and the boss looking down at Swifty reminded me so much of Bogo and Judy.
That was
It just-
100% a copy scene of Judy being spoken to by Bogo after Judy messes up when she chases down the Night Howlers, and they're having that scene, and just before she just about gets fired and the movie takes a turn. That was that whole scene. I was like, Sarah, like, that's Bogo. That's not some Russian lady. That's Bogo talking to Judy, not Swifty. That's Judy. It was to the point where this Russian character, who's much bigger than Swifty, was doing the finger against the desk movements, like that whole thing that Bogo does when he's slamming his fingers against either the table or the phone. I'm like, this is Zootopia. Like, this is what? Like it was way too similar for it to not have been.
Yeah. Even when I was watching Saber and Pan's review, I was like, that's just Bogo and Judy right there, like, in that scene.
Yeah, no, that was a scene for scene look. Like, that's one of those where you mash up against and like, yeah, no, I when I saw that scene, I went, well, I know exactly when they were storyboarding this one what they were using as a reference.
Yep.
So
And like, the internet has this habit of being an echo chamber of like, what can we shit on right now, and Arctic Dogs is getting that, tunnel vision. But like, there are some shitty things. I mean, for fuck's sake, whoa, it smells like the earth made a poopy. Like, you can't say that wasn't some writers saying, oh, we should make the kids laugh. What can we say? A poopy. Like, that's just so crass. And I get it. Like, if my nieces watch that, they'd probably laugh. And that's fine. Their kids can have their own movies. They can have their own brand of humor. It's a bit more to their level, because like, kids aren't going to understand intricate, like, clever jokes. They're kids. That's fine. But like, at the same time, I feel like there's better ways you can go about doing it. And Arctic Dogs, in the grand scheme, I think it's going to end up getting a score that is a lot worse than other movies that are more deserving of set scores. But this is the problem. This is what happens when you get greedy and have a theatrical release of this size. It's like, what does the theater offer? A better cinematic experience? Maybe some on a visual scale and sounds, like, but like, this movie's not deserving of it. It's just something I would have guessed I'd pop open on Amazon Prime going, oh, Arctic Dogs, okay, I'll put that on. I guess that's what it's about. Or Netflix or whatever.
Well, here's the thing that I noted. So the reason I keep mentioning how Sarah and I were having discussions in this movie, we were the only ones that were in the theater. So there wasn't anybody else. So there were a lot of moments that Sarah and I actually were laugh out loud, like we were like roaring laughing. It wasn't because of the movie. It was because of stuff we were bouncing off of each other. And yeah, it just, the thing is that this movie just lacked so much heart, and like that was it. Like, that's why, like, I don't feel bad saying straight up like how bad I thought this movie was, in my opinion, because I just don't see, I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, you don't want to like trash on someone's work, because we've all been there with something that we actually tried really hard with and go, oh man. But this just, I don't know, I think what hurts this movie's image almost is the fact that they went and got the voice actors that they did, because that almost I don't know, it just almost makes it feel,
it was
like
greedy.
Yeah,
like John Cleese, I could see that, but like Jeremy, Heidi, why? Like, you could have just thrown in a professional voice actor from, just go hit up a LA agency and look for some VAs. They got greedy. They wanted big names, and I think in hopes of possibly to advertise it, but I don't think these VAs really gave a damn. Like, gave a damn, whatever. I don't know if it's proper grammar or not, but still, I've seen like Over the Garden Wall. I think it's a great example of having high profile actors being used in ways to utilize their voice talent. Christopher Lloyd as the woodsman. You've got John Cleese in the movie, in the show as well, and did 2 different roles. That's doing it right. Elijah Wood as Wirt is brilliant. He nailed it. Like, it's not that actors can't be voice actors, but like, usually having actual voice actors, they'll do a better job. God, there was somebody recently who was doing voice work, and I'm like, oh my God, you're just amazing at it. There's a guy named Rice Pirate who was in Hazbin Hotel, and he is legitimately a fantastic voice actor, like through and through, with his range. I think that's a good hallmark of a great voice actor, is like just the range of your voice versus, hey, that's Alec Baldwin's unique voice. So I don't know.
Yep. So to get into probably the biggest parallel here that I saw with this movie and Zootopia, and it's actually one that's been kind of like a little bit touched upon, but just to kind of like slam into it, is the idea. I just put down the note of animal racism. Kind of that. Like, I feel like that's the simplest way to explain it, but essentially, this was something that was tackled beautifully in Zootopia. The way that other animals judge each other because, oh, you're this type of animal. That means this, that means that. Here they tried to do that, but like with none of the buildup, just kind of like, oh,
it happens out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does. It's weird. It is.
Well, there's a part in the movie that felt kind of out of nowhere to me, which was how Swifty, Pan called him Swifty in his review.
Yeah, Swifty.
Swifty is working with his bear friend to train. And it kind of implies that they'd been doing this every day for years to get the fox buffed up and put on some weight so he can carry the sleigh.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, why don't they use a snowmobile? I don't know. Because again, they could build airplanes, so I guess snowmobiles are out of the question. And then I'm gonna pause on my thing about the bear and the fox, but like I don't know why they got so weird with their plot. It's like why don't you just make a movie about the sleigh pulling or about the big evil genius trying to melt the world? Why both? It just seems so convoluted.
Yeah. Either go the Balto route or go the Minions route. Yeah.
But they wanted their cake and they wanted to eat it too. And then the Puffins they're all copy paste. Like at least the Minions have some differences outside of their color of their beaks. But the bear at one point turns on Swifty and he's like, you know what? This is always like you. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you've always tried to... Oh, what was it? He was getting pissed off at his friends over a certain aspect of the relationship that the movie barely, mentions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, am I supposed to feel bad at this part? Is this the climactic breakup between good friends? Because I don't fucking get it.
Right.
Like, when Frodo and Sam... And I know it's not fair to compare Arctic dogs to Frodo and Sam.
I know Arctic dogs sounds much better.
Arctic dogs. I like when Smeagol bit off Swifty's tail. But I guess thinking about a good story, a good writing, a good story is like making a character build that relationship and then throw it down hard, make them suffer. Like when Frodo and Gollum were like, "Hey, fuck you, Sam, bye," and Sam's like, "Oh, what the fuck? Like, what do I do?" Or in Bug's Life when Flick got caught betraying the colony.
Mm-hmm.
These are big moments in the movie that should make you feel like, oh shit, something's going down. But in this movie, the only moments where it's it makes you, I guess, should I care is the bear getting upset at the fox over their friendship because of something. And then also I guess the fox being like, I should tell my office that there's an evil walrus, but there's a party, so maybe that can wait. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? What's your character? What do you want?
Yeah,
so
that same confusion actually happened. Not just that part, but then also the fact that he clearly, there's this girl, Red Fox character that he clearly to the audience has feelings for. And then when she shows up for him, he's like, yeah, but there's cake over in the corner, so I'm gonna ignore you for a few minutes. I was like,
yeah, right.
What? I'm just gonna outright say this. A lot of what this movie reminded me of, and then we'll get back on the Zootopia topic, but a lot of what this movie reminded me of is in the Brony fandom. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. It was like somebody striving for horse fame, and
wow,
when they hit that moment of oh my gosh, I've done it, and then going over to the three people over against the wall that are like, hey, we're here to celebrate because you did a good job, and they're like, my fans. I don't know, there was just a level of it that I'm like, man, it's what made this character to me hard to root for, because he felt like he was so wrapped up in what he wanted that it was like, okay, good for you. I don't know. Yeah.
A lot of these plots feel hollow. The biggest moment in the movie where I actually mouthed the word "what the fuck" was when they try to tie both of these different storylines together. I said this in my review, where it's like, how can we get the sleigh dogs involved with the evil villain? Oh, let's randomly kidnap the other sleigh dogs to create a vacancy for the fox to have to pull the sleighs down. Okay, why? Like, why did the puffins steal the sleigh dogs? If maybe, let's say the sleigh dogs came across, they're walking around one night and they see the puffins carrying away engineering supplies. And like, hey, what's that about? Go run over. And the dogs are starting to spy on the puffins. The puffins like, hey! And they put them to sleep. That would have made much more sense to me. A lot more sense. Oh, now there's a vacancy and the villains kidnapped the dogs. Versus the dogs walking out from home to go home and they just randomly get iced by these puffins. Like that sucks. And I do wonder if they had two different stories and they just put them together. Who cares? Come on.
Okay, so I need to point this out. It was potentially my favorite bad moment of this movie. It was, and I think it was when, so there comes a point where everyone's in these cages. Like you said, the top dogs initially disappear in this movie because the villain's like, we need them to, I don't know. And so they get thrown into their cage, and then our main characters get thrown into a cage. They kind of reunite, and Swifty's trying to, I guess, kind of rile the troops. Like, hey, and he's telling these top dogs, like, something along the lines of, like, what you guys do is so important. Everyone needs you. And the main top dog responds with something along the lines of, we just deliver the mail.
Yeah,
and Swifty's response to this is just, no. Like, kid, we just deliver the mail. No. And I imagine this in real life. Somebody like walking up to an actual mailman in his little cube truck and being like, you have changed the world this day. And the guy being like, actually, I'm just delivering the mail. No.
You, sir, are a sandwich artist. Dude, I just work at Subway. All right. I don't know why you've been obsessing over this.
I like how Pan described it in his review, where it's like somebody that comes up to be like saying that, like, oh yeah, YouTubers are awesome. It's like, dude, we barely get paid.
Yeah, they're miserable, and the thing is, they're like putting on a happy face, Arctic Strong, and it's like, also, we haven't even mentioned the love interest. We got Jade the Fox. Oh my God! Here's another plot hole. Jade, the engineering fox, working in the town of town, and the walrus villain outsources his engineering to the fox. Does the fucking PO the post office scan the packages? Gun, bigger gun. My God, send it off. You think there would be some kind of government official to go, why is all this mail going to the middle of nowhere into a iceberg, like, constantly? That should be a red flag.
There was so much. Yeah, and can we mention, by the way, the whole thing with the top dogs disappearing wasn't even like part of the plot. It was like a subplot where for some reason the birds were just like, hey, you know what? Let's capture the dogs. And even like the main villain's like, why the hell did you do this? Okay.
The villain's like, why did you all do that?
We idiots.
And also the engineer, the walrus, like, I'm the greatest engineer in the world. Why did you hire the fox? Why did you outsource it? You're just sitting around in your chair, and I like his little origin. I had good ideas, but then these evil business walruses kicked me out.
The backstory hurt me. I was like, okay, let's find out. Folks, the backstory to this villain is, I worked at the post office and wanted to create a machine that helped sort mail.
I want a machine that is like a tube machine that delivers mail by using the core of the earth by fracking it. It's like,
so therefore what? I will weaponize climate change.
Weaponize climate change. Like, it's Al Gore's worst nightmare.
It was just so stupid. Oh God. Yeah.
And back to the Zootopia thing again. Like, it could be coincidental for all we know. But there is a case where, like, once I get this movie, I actually might make a video about this where I highlight certain segments where it almost just seems so, like, that's a bit close. That's a bit suspicious, especially the Judy Bogo and then Swifty and his boss. It's just weird to me.
Okay.
And that's a bummer. I actually left right when the movie ended, like when the fox was like in his underwear, being like, "I'm not blind." I'm like, okay, that's enough, and I got up and left. Like, so I wanted to beat the rush home.
With all the people. Actually, you had people in your theater.
Yeah, I had some families, and they were laughing. I'm just sitting on my popcorn, being like,
So actually, if you left. So you didn't see actually the scene with the animals, the different animals with the sleighs at the end, did you?
No,
because
what happened now?
I told you that there was a moment where I was flipping off the screen with both hands, and it was because of the last minute of this movie.
Okay.
What
happened?
The character says something to the effect, and if I had the script in front of me, I'd tell you again. This isn't the type of movie you remember things from, but basically said, we should all try to make the world a better place.
I implore you.
And I was both middle fingers were up. I was like, fuck you, movie. No. You do not know. No, oh God, it was, I agree with the message, but it was like they said, hey, how did Zootopia end this? Oh, okay, she said that? Okay, just have the character say that. Yeah, that works. Perfect.
I guess this eagle person donated 621. I saw what you did there. I saw that.
You made a reference.
A euro.
You made a reference of that in your talking about the success of movies being based on
Lord.
That.
We needed more porn of The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. I'm sure Laura would have enjoyed that. Willem Dafoe. He's like, you're fapping to Willem Dafoe porn, and he's like, finish it.
God, there were just even aside from all the Zootopia stuff, though, in Arctic Dogs, there were just so many dumb moments in this movie. We've hit upon some of them, but like, oh God, it's just, I don't know. I think that's what frustrated me about this movie. And it's actually pretty epic, because I think the movie that frustrated me the most in all my viewing experiences was Secret Life of Pets. And that's because of how they marketed the movie, where this one didn't even have the marketing that had me convinced, like, oh, this could be decent. But I don't know, it was just, I think it goes back to how boring the movie actually ended up being, how unlikable the characters ended up being. The main character, Swifty, he's very hard to relate to. And
Can I? Okay, so this is how I would. Let's do this, because I've been told that if you're going to criticize something, then offer a solution. So,
actually, I'm sorry. I actually meant to mention this earlier, and sometimes I'll break off in even a small tangent and then be like, oh, I don't remember where I was going. So that was my point. But yeah, like you said, like offering solutions or whatnot. There were very simple things that this movie could have done, actually, that I think would have improved it incredibly. First off, I think and this might sound kind of surprising, but I think they should have gone more of a focus on humor. And a movie I'm going to use to compare is, funny enough, Angry Birds. A movie that I'm like, well, this is probably going to be a really stupid movie, but where I feel like Angry Birds actually does well is that they focused on the humor in a very smart way. I'm not saying,
and they have a little bit of heart with Red trying to find, like, people to love him,
right?
But you're right. I think
this movie, I felt they could have gone that route. And there were multiple times where I turned to Sarah where I'm like, all they needed here was a few more seconds just to let things flesh out. There's a scene where I think Swifty is talking to his boss and he knocks over like a box or something, and it like goes out a window or again memory, but goes out the window, and you hear like stuff crash for like 3 seconds, and I'm like, what they should have done here is just had crashing noises going for like 15 seconds, cut to the characters just staring at each other, another couple seconds, and then wrap it up. Instead, it was like, it's funny because it crashed. I'm like,
or the crashing, screaming, and then he just leaves. Not even like a farewell. Just walks. He just walks out slowly. So like, because there wasn't a single time I laughed in this movie. Like, I laughed ironically at the bear with the cold brew. That's it.
mm-hmm.
And everything else was stupid. Where it's like, not stupid, just kind of, just wasn't funny. I saw the poo-poo and fart jokes. Oh, okay. The French otters. Okay. Viva la Resistance. And
Mr. and Mrs. Otterton making an appearance. That was good to see them.
Forgettable characters. Forgettable.
Watch the girl otter in this movie get merchandise before Mrs. Otterton, and then let's talk to Hiro Sashi.
Well, hear a scream. The way I would have fixed it is like you try to Balto, Zootopia, Minions,
North.
the North. You think?
I only say it because of the polar bear.
Okay.
Ice. There was ice.
They should have focused this more on the kid, like, okay, borrow from Zootopia with the rejection of not being good enough for a role, but then let him introduce something where it's like he can overcome it in a different way,
mm-hmm.
and maybe make the villain, I don't know, like, instead of some weird convoluted global warming thing, maybe he's trying to buy out the town and be like, I'm gonna pave the way of the future. We don't even need sleigh dogs anymore. And the sleigh dogs are like, yeah, kid, this is it. We're done for. They don't need us anymore. And the kid's like, no, they do need us. We can change the future together. I don't know.
Right.
Something that
or
makes
it could have been kind of a competition side of it, like there's this snow dog race type of thing that's going to happen, and Swifty hasn't been able to make the team because he's too small, but something happens to one of the team members, and they're like, well, great, we get stuck with this character, but he gets to prove himself through that using kind of the same ideas, same things that they wanted. It's weird because I feel like the villain with Cleese and everything was probably the best played character, but he's probably a character they also could have done completely without. So
yeah, at least he had a bit more like I don't know, fun. John Cleese, that's how he talks in a way, and I love John Cleese. I think he's a great actor. I think he's a great voice actor. When he's given the right script, he can just destroy it. Like, I thought him as Uncle Endicott and Over the Garden Wall was great, where he's like, "Then I am truly mad," or whatever. I love his performance in that show. Here, it's almost like I wonder how many of the lines he improvised, where he's like, "This is stupid. Like, let me just do it."
Yeah.
Because there's certain actors where it's like they're good enough to where they can make bad stuff work, like Danny DeVito or Samuel L. Jackson. Though I think those actors are prolific enough to where they don't have to like do shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why John Cleese did this. I don't know what he saw in this movie. That's why, again, I think that the majority of this money went to the voice actors getting paid. What are the reason why they do this? There's nothing special about this movie that makes you go, wow, I want that. I want that role. I want to be in this show. Because like Elijah Wood as Wirt, I think that spoke to him on an artistic level. He's like, wow, there's this team making the show. They're doing something different and fun and interesting with a cool story and some darkness to it. Versus, hey, it's a shitty animated film. You want voice it and I as a paycheck. Like, that's what it felt like for Arctic Dog. So, I don't know. We got 5 minutes left. Do y'all want to do some wrap-up sessions here?
I do. There's one last point I want to get on as far as something that frustrated me on this movie. Just because I feel like it'd be a fun one to end on. For you hyper furries out there that were like, man, I really hope that we get to see a lot of skin of the Swifty character. you mentioned Saber, how they bring it up at the beginning where he's an Arctic fox. He blends in with the snow. If he wears the right clothing, he blends in. He basically disappears. It is something that they don't even touch upon until the very end. Like it's not even
Yep.
hinted at throughout the movie until the very end. I guess you could call it the climax of the movie. But the problem I had with it is that when they utilized it, they made it to where he's like, okay, I'm gonna get not naked, but just down to my tidy whities.
My tidy whities. Because when they did that, I was like, oh yeah, it's right. He sorry. I looked up Rule 34 for Arctic dogs, and there's only one image, and it's fucking hilarious.
Oh my god, you gotta share it.
I will. It's a shit post to the extreme. Oh my god. The part failed them. That's why they lost their money. But yeah, the what was I talking about?
We were talking
What was I
about him in his underwear.
Oh yeah, well, they introduced that part of the film at the beginning. They don't even bring it up. It's not even a running theme. It's just more of a oh yeah at the very end. That's a thing, and it was stupid because it barely even helped at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
yeah,
oh,
no, it
close.
actually almost didn't help. Literally at all, because what they do is they have the character be like, now I can't be seen, and then because they want to get close to the villain, and then they show all the characters split up, and the whole time that he's utilizing where he can't be seen, he's got people that are part of his group ahead of him. So it's like he's like in the background, kind of just being like, I can't be seen now. Great. And then when he gets to the point where he gets close enough to the villain, one of his people that was already in his group helped him out, so there was no point in him getting invisible. And then when he got close enough, the villain could see him. There's literally one part where it's like, it paid off. And even then, I was like, okay.
Yeah, he jumped out of the way for a second when the walrus was trying to relocate him.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
That was
It was stupid. It was a random thing they threw in that made no sense. It's almost like they wanted to make something sympathetic for the fox at the beginning, and it just didn't work. It's like, guys, you already have your sympathy with him being small and not strong enough. Work with that. So this movie just was it was confused. It didn't know what it wanted.
Yeah.
Overall, though, if I can give my final thoughts on this, I'll say that Arctic Dogs is not a nightmarishly terrible film. I've seen worse. Spider's Web of a Pig's Tail is much worse. Food Fight is much worse. Troll End is 1,000,000 times worse. But this movie was not good enough at all for the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the people making this, the people behind this film, the leadership, they failed it. Poor marketing, bad decisions all the way up to the top. And that's why this movie is failing as much as it is, and it will bleed until it dies. And we might see this shit on a streaming site, Amazon Prime, I'd imagine, the bargain bin in the future. So that's it. That's Arctic Dogs.
Yep.
But I'll say I think Norm of the North though is much worse. So
Really, I still have yet to see Norm of the North. So
it's bad. It's more insulting with like the big party numbers and the dumb lemmings with being minions. It's like they focused on the I don't know. I can't even say focus. That sounds unfair to people who try to focus. It's like that movie is much more insulting with its humor and it's just how insane it is.
Mm-hmm.
This movie had a bit more dignity, but it was boring though.
Oh god. Well, I just want to throw this out. Thanks to all of our live viewers that showed up.
Absolutely.
We do a podcast called the Semi Perfect Podcast. It'll be 1 week from now. It's every other Wednesday. And you're in the right place for it. So Semi Perfect Podcasting.
This is fun.
Yeah, this was enjoyable. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we do this a little more often. But yeah, Saber and Paleo, they're also on that. Also featuring Saber and Paleo, I'm right now releasing. All three of us were at a convention this past weekend at Ponyville Cider Fest. We had a great time out there. Lots of panels and convention vlog uploads of us just goofing around the city of Milwaukee. So you can check all that out. And Saber, Paleo, do you guys have anything you want to promote?
I'm good. Just I was working on a video for this week that I'm gonna postpone for now because I got some big projects. I need big projects I want to finish here this week for next week. It's going to be a roller coaster these next few, I guess, this November and December. Here, I'll tell the chat. I got a hint here. I'm going to do a review of Dingo Pictures and how it's the worst animation studio of all time. See, that is worthy of the title of the worst.
Yeah,
Dingo Pictures.
That Aladdin one is like...
It barely qualifies.
I couldn't even watch it with you.
Yeah, I mean, you've been through a lot too. So, and then I got here's another little surprise. I got What's Ruining Blue Sky Studios because they have been on a decline critically. Peanuts was fine, but actually Peanuts was really good. But it's one of those things where if you look at their Metascore, like going down their filmography, it's like, wow, you guys are just dropping. It's been dropping every year. You're not good at making movies at the moment. And I suspect that Spies in Disguise will be a disaster. Not a disaster, but it is not going to do well. It's almost like Disney bought it and said, yeah, fuck that movie. Make way for our movies. So,
yeah.
That should be fun. And then I got Animal Olympics review. So that should be fun.
Oh.
And December should be fun as well. So yeah, that's all I got.
Nice. What about you, Paleo?
Well, next week Disney Plus launches.
I'm
gonna be talking a little bit about that, and also the Lady and the Tramp remake, which comes out on that service. So yeah, that's a thing. And then yeah, Frozen 2 also comes out this month. So that's exciting, which apparently has like the most pre-sale tickets of like any animated movie ever.
I'm excited for Frozen 2 because
I'm hoping it's going to beat Lion King.
Guys, it's I never thought I'd die side by side with an elf. How about side by side with a friend? Finally, I got a meme for that. I'm gonna post that right now.
Yeah.
You saw it here. This is how his Twitter brain works.
Yeah.
My shit post.
And then after that, I'm gonna be doing. I'm not gonna be doing too many reviews for the rest of the year, but I'm going to be doing a few lists of my top favorite stuff of the decade.
Yeah.
Of, like movies, cartoons, anime, video games.
Sweet.
So yeah, take a look out for those.
Taylor's got some big stuff in the works. I'm excited to see what happens.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, this was
Oh my
fun.
God! Someone said the ending of Frozen 2 is leaked in the children's book. No, I've avoided the hell out of the spoilers for Frozen 2. I'm going to blind. I'm so excited for that. Oh, by the way, Claws comes out next week, so it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, but not a wide release.
You know, womp womp.
Yeah, it's only showing in 3 like U.S. cities, for the U.S. So it's like New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco.
Well, perfect.
The rest of us will have to wait for Netflix.
Who owns Netflix? All right, guys, thanks for joining. This was fun.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming on out, and yeah, who knows? We'll let you know if another one of these pops up. This was, kind of off the cuff, but we had fun. Thanks again to our live viewers and to everyone watching, and you all have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.